I know you watch Sports Society, and I know you watched last episode where we talked about the rule differences. And if
Yes.
not, this would be a really good time just to lie. And so tell me, as someone who's watched it casually, what are your observations of these games?
I think you can definitely see the quarterback position is very important because a lot of these quarterbacks are definitely the weakest points on the teams.
So
And these
bad.
guys are obviously like kind of, I don't want to say washed up because they're still, way better than I could ever do.
And just because you're not, Pat Mahomes doesn't really necessarily categorize you as washed up.
Well, even in the NFL, there's like probably 8 or 10 teams that have good or decent quarterbacks that are going to be viable in the NFL. So, and the rest of them are just fighting, they're just like putting in stopgaps and hoping they can get somebody in the draft and kind of get lucky, And
Isn't that astonishing? The
Yeah.
number of players that play quarterback in the world, and we only have like 10 that are suitable.
that are viable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
And I think it's a lot has to do with, I don't know how the coaching goes in those leagues. And, I'm sure, those guys, they get paid more than they did in the original XFL that came out in like 2000 or something. Those guys were making like nothing, like $500 or $600 a game. These guys, I think, are making it goes with the coaching too. You want to put these quarterbacks in the system that they'll flourish. The best example of that is how the Eagles transitioned their offense to Nick Foles in the 2017 season where they won the Super Bowl. Where you saw those first few games where after Carson Wentz got hurt, where Nick Foles struggled because it was still Carson Wentz's offense. But then
we already had home field advantage, so it didn't matter if we lost. I think we did lose all the last games. With
I think they were just throwing
like,
stuff out to see what worked. And then they finally refined it. Reich, the coach of the Colts now, who was the offensive coordinator then, who was a quarterback for the Bills when Jim Kelly went down and brought him back from like a 27-point deficit in the playoffs.
Against the Oilers.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Frank Reich. That wasn't Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And I think a lot of coaching. There's a lot going on there in the XFL. I'm not sure exactly how that works.
So let's take a look at the standings halfway through the season. And there's only one undefeated team.
Yes. Is that Houston?
It is.
Yeah.
It's the Houston Roughnecks.
The Roughnecks.
And the funny thing is, your team, John, the Renegades, that you supported their logo, is second place in the West with a 2-3 record.
Bullshit. That means they suck.
And then DC, one of the teams I like their logo, and the Guardians are both 3-2 over on the East side. So there's a lot of parity in this sport. So DC is leading the East, and Houston is leading the West.
Now, so it's East and West in the XFL?
There's only 8 teams.
8 teams, okay.
Yeah, so there's 8 teams, Bob, and then there's a 9th team that they creatively call Team 9. Wow. And that's basically a roster that practices, and then you can steal players from it if you have an injury.
Isn't that crazy?
I kind of like that.
It's pretty cool.
I know.
Yeah.
It's straight out of the WWE. It's what Vince created the Next program.
Yeah.
And the NXT. They're like the minor leagues, but not really. You're still there.
Yeah, and you would think maybe the NFL, they have 34 teams. Maybe they add another team and they do the same thing where that team can kind of be like raped and pillaged for their players.
It's almost like you're bringing fantasy football into actual football.
Yeah.
I like how they're called Team 9.
It's like this dark, ominous, creative thing, right? You feel like one of your brethren from the Avengers are like their coach, and they train at some facility that's unknown to anyone else.
Yeah, it's like SEAL Team 6. SEAL Team 6, basically.
There you go.
It's like in an invisible underground, field. It's somehow on the moon.
And we had SEAL Team 6. We had SEAL Team 6 only when we had like 2 SEAL teams.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
They named it SEAL Team 6 to mess with the Soviets because they wanted to think we had more special ops going than we really did.
Oh, that's spectacular.
Old misdirect.
Yeah. 1, 2, 6.
Yeah.
I watched basically an entire game, and it was really freaking entertaining. But you're right. The quarterback it's just like in the backyard. You're just kind of like, hopefully my guy catches it. Yeah, I was watching Houston
Because you were
against.
texting me, and we were having a good time with that. I mean,
Yeah,
I remember turning it on right before half, and they're down 8,
right.
and the strategy of it is beautiful. They score a touchdown, and they immediately go for the 2, right? Because you can go for 1, 2, or 3. There's no kick.
Yes,
Yeah, I like
And
it.
so
right.
they go for 2 to tie it up at half, and I'm like, look at the strategy, how beautiful this is. Because normally in conventional football, they always say don't chase the points,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
They say like
Play
kick it now, kick it
safe.
now, kick it now, worry about it at the end. And in this, you're like, fuck it, we're going for broke. And next year they're doing your rule where it's like 10 points from midfield or whatever that one was that you
Yes. Hail Mary.
Something.
10-point extra point.
Vince McMahon is aligned with this.
Yeah, he owns it.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he created the original one.
Dick Ebersol in the original one.
Oliver Luck is the commissioner.
Andrew Luck's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a commissioner,
So,
just like on Monday Night Raw.
Does he have a pituitary gland issue too? Andrew Luck, it's great being here on the Colts, and I love playing football. And sorry I have to retire.
I'm upset that I loved because on the last show, Bob, we kind of just like went through all the logos, and I was like, "Ooh, I like this one the best." Happens to be Dallas,
Oh God,
the
Come on.
Renegades. I'm sorry, those were the rules. Dude, the logo is by far is so cool. It's like a bandit, just eyes and like a mask. And a
Okay,
hat.
yeah, I think I've seen that one. Yeah,
It's kind of badass. Pretty
Yeah.
bad. It's
Yeah.
like Dallas. I'll root for your XFL team. That's how much I hate you, Cowboys.
yeah. Better than you guys do. Actually, make the playoffs.
They had the I think it was Houston, or who were they playing? Were they playing the Dragons, the Las Vegas Dragons? Sweet uniforms, sweet helmets. The quarterback on one of the teams threw 3 interceptions that I saw. And
Seattle Dragons, right?
Seattle Dragons. And
Yeah.
after every interception, instead of a turnover chain, they had a turnover mask, and it was like a ski mask. Like he looked like a bank robber. I was like, I know Vince okayed this also. Like, I know he's like, yes, do that. Be the villains. Everybody is a villain.
Yeah. I'm sure they're holding Vince back a lot on what he wants to do with this.
Oh, yeah. He's
Kind of
like
see how
Vince.
it plays.
We'll try a quarter of insane ideas, and then if people like it, we'll add
gradually encompass what Vince McMahon's going to bring to the table there.
which is basically wrestling on a football field.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a ladder match football game in the XFL. A ladder will be involved somehow eventually. At least steel chairs.
That's how you get the wild card playoff spot. So like at the end of the season, you're like teetering on who gets into the playoffs, and the wild card is decided by like a ladder cage match.
Yeah. Bring out 2 defensive ends and just have them go at it for 5 minutes at midfield.
No, it's a random draw, so it may end up being like your kicker versus a D end. Like you don't know who represents you.
I like that better.
All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move.